Welcome, I'm Rogers Anderson. As we travel around Williamson County, you have expressed to us over the years that you like to talk to the different departments, chief elected officials, and today we have one of those individuals in our sheriff of Williamson County, Dusty Rhoades. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you, Roger. It's a pleasure to be here.
You've been involved in the sheriff operation for a long time, and I want you to kind of take me how you got started, who hired you, how'd you get involved in being in the law enforcement community?
Well, Rogers, I grew up in West Tennessee, in Milan, Tennessee, and I'd always planned on going to Memphis to work. And after I graduated high school, things didn't work out for me to get to Memphis, and a bunch of my friends from high school were coming to Middle Tennessee. I came up here to MTSU, and about my sophomore year, I met my wife. And going along, I was majoring in criminal justice, and going along with, as the instructors tell you to do, when you get ready to graduate, about 3 or 4 months before you graduate, you put out your applications and stuff. So my wife was born and raised here in Franklin, and she said, "Well, we're going to move to Franklin."
You didn't have a vote.
I didn't have a whole lot of choice. So I put my application in at the sheriff's office in the Franklin Police Department, and Fleming Williams was the sheriff back then, and he called me. Well, actually, my mother-in-law called me because I was in school at the time. I used to work at Opryland as a park ranger. I was there when they started building the hotel, and but she called me one afternoon. I was at an intercession, and she said, "Fleming wants to talk to you," and this was on a Monday. So I came down here and met Fleming at the courthouse, and we talked for a little bit, and he says, "Well, when you get out of school?" And I said, "Friday." He said, "Well, I'll see you Saturday." I said, "Do what?" And he said, "Yeah, be here Saturday and be ready to work." I said, "Well, okay, what all I need to do?" And he said, "Well, you need to get uniforms. You need to go down to K Uniforms and get your uniforms." I said, "Well, I don't even have a pistol. What do I need to do?" He said, "Well, go buy a pistol." So I got down here, and my wife.
Times have changed.
Yeah, my wife had to show me how to get to the jail. We were living over on Battle Avenue, and she had to show me how to get to the jail, which was on Bridge Street. I got down there on Saturday morning and met the guy I was riding with. And back then we worked 10-hour days. And they put me in the car with Garland Russell was his name, and we went out. Came back on Sunday morning, and 8 o'clock, rode to about 12 o'clock. They took me back down to jail and said, gave me car keys and a map. And then we were over on Bridge Street, and when I hit Bridge Street, they said, when you come out of the parking lot, turn right, which was Bridge Street, which takes you to 96 West. Said, take that till it dead ends, then pull your map out and follow it as you work Fairview area. So for my first 2 years, I did nothing but work Fairview. But I hadn't even been through the police academy yet. And it was probably, well, it was March of '80. I started June 1st of '79. It was March of '80 before I ever got through the police academy. And today, you would not even do that. You wouldn't put anybody out there without experience. But
how many people, when you started, did the sheriff's department have approximately? You may not know that.
I'm stretching when we probably maybe had 20, and that's the whole department. That's the jail, patrol, criminal investigations, and warrants. Probably 20 people.
Today?
And we even had dispatch. Today we've got 363. And we don't have dispatch today, but that's 363, so we've come a long way. And I'm asking for more people in the budget.
I know. Let's don't get on television to go that. One of the things that I've observed you on in the 30-plus years that I have had the opportunity to see you operate is how you conduct yourself and how you interface with your men and the women at the sheriff's department. Less than 90 days ago, you became the sheriff when Jeff Long was asked to come to Nashville under the new administration of Governor Lee. It was an opportunity for Sheriff Long to go to Nashville. That left a void. The county commission appointed you. In 2020, you have to run again. You're serving out the unexpired term of Jeff Long. But I've watched you over the years, and just the way you handle yourself. I have the opportunity to see you quite frequently, just about every Thursday when you and I could make it at the noon Rotary. I know you're involved in many, many activities. How has your role changed now as the sheriff of Williamson County in the last 90 days? I noticed your hair's getting a little grayer.
Well, my extracurricular activities have really increased a lot. I've been out, trying to be at all the functions that I can be at out in the county and stuff. So, my night times have usually, well, when I was chief deputy, of course, been on call all the time, but I didn't make a lot of functions out in the county and stuff. And now that's changed quite a bit. So I'm trying to get out and make all the functions, meet all the people that I can meet, and hear any comments or criticisms they've got about the sheriff's office. If they got comments, bring them back. If they got criticisms, bring them back and try to correct those criticisms.
You've got a lot of great men and women that serve under your leadership, I guess is the best way to say it. But I guess that just about everybody across the United States understands the role of the sheriff. That comes from an old English term. Whereas they may not know they've got a county mayor or a county executive, depending on what they call that. But it's hard to go anywhere that somebody doesn't understand the term and the terminology of the sheriff. One of the most, I like to say, one of the more powerful positions, but you and your predecessor, are you're a little bit more under the radar. It doesn't always require you to be on the front page of the paper. You just want to get the job done.
Correct, and if I can stay off the front page, that's good. Usually if I'm on the front page, something's gone south real bad. So yeah, if I can stay off the front page, that's good.
So explain kind of to the general public that's watching this, if the sheriff is the sheriff of the county, why is it important for you to interface with these police chiefs in all the different cities that have police chiefs?
Well, we are all short-staffed. There's never going to be enough law enforcement in your counties, and it's imperative that we work together. We have to rely on them. Just yesterday, we had an incident where one of our deputies made a traffic stop inside the city of Franklin, and it went south on him, and he had to call for help. And we had, I think there's 5 Franklin police officers that were there to help him out before we could get a deputy on the spot. Now, too, like I say, we have deputies all over the county, and if they have a police officer that calls for help, we may be right on top of it. So we have to work together to keep the county safe.
You mentioned something earlier when you were talking about your early days and when you and Lynn, your wife, were kind of getting involved in this new profession you've got. I don't know if people really realize that the cities don't have a jail, and you're responsible for the law enforcement when someone's locked up out off from Century Court.
We got the only jail in town, and yeah, we got everybody comes to our jail.
And it's not like that the city is derelict in their job. They're doing their job, and they'll arrest them, but they're going to be booked over in that Williamson County Jail Department, which is a whole different division than probably what you went to school for.
Oh yes, oh yes. When I started school, I was all about law enforcement. I was all about going out here and playing cops and robbers. And the sheriff, when I started working in the sheriff's office, we were down on Bridge Street in the jail. We were working in the jail, and I'm kind of like, this is a whole different animal, more so than I thought it would be. Even when I was in college, it was more on the constitutional issues and the law and stuff like that, and there wasn't really, not any of my classes really dealt with the difference between a police department and a sheriff's office and stuff like that.
But the law says you're in charge of that. The
Right.
law also says you're in charge for the law enforcement of the unincorporated areas as well as inside the city when those times are on. But that jail is a whole different animal, and I know you have very capable men and women out there, but you couldn't do your job, or the predecessors prior to you could ever do their job without the good men and women that we've got.
Without our staff, we're lost. And they're the most important part of the sheriff's office. If we don't have good men and women there, then we're going on a slippery slope.
Sheriff, a few years ago, we got into, in our county, providing student resource officers, SROs, to all of the public schools here in the county. There was an incident. There was an incident that occurred up in the New England areas. that involved the lives of several young people, just from a random shooter that got into the schools. And there were your predecessor and you, police chiefs, school superintendents. The decision was made that it's time for us to get in the SRO business on a full-time basis. That's been 5 or 6 years. That department 5 or 6 years ago had 1, maybe 2 school resource officers, but it was not the way it is today. And today, it pretty well controls about 1/3 of your total manpower or woman power.
Yes, it's our largest division that we have now, yes. And, I never would have thought, of course, you're in that same boat, that we would have to have law enforcement in our schools, period. And after the Sandy Hook situation, it was only the right thing to do to protect our students. And at least, if your community knows that there's an SRO in that school, maybe it'll make somebody think twice before they try to do something at that school.
And without giving away all the secrets, it's not just the man or woman at the school. It's the communication that they have with those students, with those teachers, with those staffs. But even more so, our schools, the way we are designing or retrofitting them, are a safer place now. Entries, exits, cameras. I mean, the whole enchilada, if I may use that word, is just changed how we look at security at schools today.
Well, yeah, I mean, our schools, they're somewhat of a mini fortress. I mean, the way we've got them, like you said, with the cameras, I know some of the stuff that Michael Fletcher with the safety director for the schools is doing to those, but, that's our youth, and we've got to protect them.
Look in your crystal ball. You're sheriff. What's on the horizon for the next 2 to 5 years? That's about all you and I can handle anymore. Well, it used to be 10 years.
Yeah. Well, with the JJJ task force,
we're not allowed to give initials, so you have to say what?
The juvenile, the jail, and the judicial part of the county that we're looking at now. Of course, our juvenile system out there at the jail. We were the last jail built that had a juvenile detention facility attached to it. They are overwhelmed with personnel. Of course, as the county grows, they're getting overwhelmed with family matters and stuff, with kids in the schools and stuff like that. And I was just over there yesterday, and I mean, there's 3 people in an office that's made to fit for one. I mean, they've got desks built into the walls. There's people standing up. So, I'm thinking that the juvenile's probably going to be our biggest priority. Of course, the jail is not overcrowded, and let's hope it doesn't get overcrowded. But the jail is old. And the infrastructure, we're having a lot of issues with it. As well, I don't think that we're going to be able to move the jail. We're going to have to be on that same footprint out there.
Kind of hard to find a location that people want a jail in their neighborhood.
In their backyard, yeah. So, and then like I say, I think once we get the matter handled with the juvenile, then we can start looking at the jail. Like I said, I don't know that I'll be there if and when we build a new jail. But and as the county grows, I mean, our population in the jail is going to grow. So we've got to get ready for that.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, 30 years ago when the jail was built, approximately, the female population wasn't what it was today. The drugs weren't what it was of yesteryear, let me put it that way. Today, that's all changed.
Oh, yes.
Domestic violence is just, to me, some days, you read reports, I talk to you, it's just incredible that what's going on out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not unusual. Of course, as the county grows, we get, we get all kinds of issues with more people that come into the county. And then, with I-65 and 840, people passing through, we get all kinds of crime. And we have people coming out of Chicago just to come down to Cool Springs and steal from Cool Springs. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me, but it happens. But as like I said, as we continue to grow, we're going to have issues, and we're going to have a place to build them. And like I said, with the female population in the jail, You know, it's a misnomer when you say you got X amount of beds, because you may only have 40 beds for females, but if you've got 60 females need to be locked up, you got to do some management and creative management on where you can put those females, because as you know, you can't house the females with the males, and there's all that classification that comes into play. So, you know, when our female section of the jail stays full, and you know, the sad thing about that too is that we have females that come in that are pregnant, and then they're detoxing, and so those are issues that we've got to face, and it's kind of disheartening to see that happen. But I've talked to people that have been under the influence, that are hooked on dope and stuff, and it's a battle that, thank God, I don't have to fight personally myself, but it sounds like it's something that you got to walk through hell and back to get over it.
Well, I think the law enforcement community here, number one, if you're going to commit a crime, it's pretty tough. If the judges put out the sentence, there's a lot of things that are going to occur, but I think the message that has been sent, from what I hear and read, that you really don't want to do. You don't want to get picked up in Williamson County.
Yes, and that's been the, I'm gonna say, our motto as far as the law enforcement community, from the judges down. Like I've heard people say when we've stopped and said, I'm in Williamson County, I didn't want to do this down here in Williamson County, because they know that they're gonna get locked up, and the judges down here, if they're convicted, are not gonna have any sympathy on them. They're gonna hammer them.
Other things on the horizon that you see, I mean, manpower, woman power, it's always a challenge because it's got dollars and cents. 350 plus people you're responsible. That's a challenge every day.
Yes, you know, the big challenge I have right now is hiring people. We're several people short in the jail. I'm several people short on patrol. People are not knocking our doors down to come to work. Of course, you know, we try to start everybody out in the jail, and I tell everybody our jail is the toughest job we have. It really is. I mean, you know, our employees, they're locked up basically 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and they're with the inmates, and it's a tough job, some of the stuff that they have to put up with in that jail. And you know, I'm thankful that I don't have to do it on a daily basis. I mean, I have the luxury. I go back into jail probably once or twice a day to check on things, but you know, I can leave. My employees, they can't, and you know, they have to deal with the inmates that come in sometimes that are under the influence, and you know, they're being locked up, and they're just not real happy about their situation. So they're going to make it tough on my deputies in there. So they have the toughest job we have.
Those people, and I'm sure that your industry, your profession, let me put it that way, it's getting a lot of bad rap of what's going on in the national scene about law enforcement in the community. I think not every law enforcement, as some of the news would indicate, they're bad people. Not everyone is hired as bad. It's a profession they've chose to go into to provide safety for their community, whatever that thinking is as you're growing up. As a young boy, I remember to be in the law enforcement profession or to be in the fire profession. Those were honorable professional jobs, just like a teacher was. And today that's kind of been tainted, but your industry as a whole, like Murfreesboro, you talked about going to school over there many years ago. We have one of the best criminal courses going on across the nation right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And there's a huge need of recruiting, whether it's city of Franklin or Brentwood or any of the other places, that everybody's pulling on those people to go to work. And I just don't think, I think it's kind of, to some degree, it's like nurses. There's just not enough of them out there.
Well, like I say, you know, it's a tough profession, and there have been some things that have gone on over the last couple of years that have shed a bad light on law enforcement, but what you got to remember, that's only one isolated instance, you know, and unfortunately, the bad is what gets publicized and the good doesn't get publicized as much. And like I said, it's tough for somebody. It's tough for us to get somebody young that wants to get in this profession. And as I said, it's a profession. You've got to study for it. It's not one of these things that, you just pick up by the seat of your britches. Now, there's a lot of it that you get by the seat of your britches, but you've got to be able to adapt to each situation. And like I say, it's hard to get people right now. We've got several avenues that we're doing to try to get people to come in with applications and stuff. And we just started a new one that's we've had it for about 30 days, and where we were getting anywhere from 4 to 5 applications a month, we've been going about 30 days, and we got 15 applications in. Now, I can't tell you how good those are because we just started the process of doing the backgrounds on them and stuff, but I'm hoping it's going to be fruitful for us, and we can hopefully, get some good people in and get up to staff.
Sheriff, if you don't mind, touch on each division that you have. You have CID, Criminal Investigation Division. You have many, many functions, and a lot of people may not realize the courthouse law enforcement side. That's your responsibility too. And so kind of touch on each one of them and show the vast areas of response. It's come a long way since Sheriff Fleming.
Yes, it has, yeah. Well, like you said, as I mentioned earlier, we have our jail, and our jail is, like I said, one of our toughest spots, but the jail is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation. So we've got to man.
How many positions?
I think we've got 74 slotted for inside the jail, and that's just on the law enforcement side. The deputies working the floor. Of course, you've got your civilian staff, but like I say, the jail is a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week operation. Then we have my patrol division. There again, that's 24/7, and I've got 45 working patrol when I'm up to staff. And then we have a traffic unit, which we have 7 people assigned to it. And there again, it's a 24/7, but most of our traffic, they're very flexible. We move them around as we need them. As everybody knows, one of the big issues in Williamson County is traffic. And so we try to strategically place those men and women out at certain times of the day and stuff like that to try to cut down on speeding and distracted driving. But they stay busy working a lot of crashes too. We have our criminal investigations, which is basically they do all of our major crime investigations. Plus, part of that criminal investigations is our flex unit, and that is people that are working out here, working drugs and stuff like that. Plus, if we have a situation where, let's say, a neighborhood has experienced a lot of car burglaries and stuff, we'll take that flex unit and put them in those troubled areas because they're driving undercover cars and stuff. And when you look at these guys, you wouldn't think that they're with the sheriff's office. They look kind of grungy. But we put them in those areas to work to try to catch these folks and stuff like that. We have our court security people. That's about roughly 35 people. Courts, there's general sessions courts going on. There's with their criminal court and the general sessions traffic court. Then there's the circuit courts going on. Plus, another big issue we have that our court services do is transporting prisoners. We have to go across the state to pick up prisoners that have trials coming up here in Williamson County. Then sometimes we have to go out of state to pick up some of these people. Then also in our court services, we have our civil process, which when somebody sues somebody or divorce papers, these guys have to go out and serve these papers. There's garnishments that they have to serve. And then we have our state warrants, which go out with those are the guys that have to go out, and you have a bad check or a violation of probation, they have to go out there, and when you ride with them, it's a one-way ticket. We bring you to jail, we're not bringing you back. Then we've got our SROs, as we mentioned earlier, that handle that work in all of our schools. We have our crime prevention unit. That's just one man, but he stays covered up, and he goes out into schools and teaches on litter and stuff like that. Plus, when we do our neighborhood watches, he'll go out and instruct people on how to set up a neighborhood watch and what to look out for and stuff like that. So I think that's just about got everybody covered.
How about patrol?
Well, yeah.
I got to bring that up. We've got to make a plea to people watching this show. We'd love to have some of those.
Yeah, well, like I say, we've got our patrol divisions out there 24/7, and We're working 6 zones when we can. Like I said, I'm short in patrol right now, but those guys stay busy.
Sheriff, we've got about 3 minutes left, and I am sure that I have overlooked something that you'd like to get out as a message. When we do these conversations, we don't have a lot of notes, and I try to feed off from you and you feed off of me, but I'm sure I've overlooked something that you'd like to get out as a message. I know that you would love to have more candidates in which to choose from, and there are a lot of opportunities for young people here. It's a great profession to be in, and I mean, you're a classic example of it. Moving up to, it's big time to be a sheriff in a particular county, and that doesn't just happen overnight.
No, it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of work. It's been enjoyable work. I've enjoyed every minute of it. But I guess my message that I'd like to get out to everybody, and this is something that I've had a problem with for many, many years. I can remember when I was working patrol, working the streets, and you go up to a burglary call, and after you take the report, you canvass the neighborhood, and neighbors would say, well, I saw a car over there, and I didn't think anything about it. Well, I had rather you call the sheriff's office and us come out and investigate something and there not be anything to it than to have had something happen and you saw it and didn't call us and we maybe could have prevented it. And it goes back same thing with our school resource. If you see something, report it. Let us look into
say something.
Yeah, let us look into it. And hey, we will look into it. We don't care if it turns out to be, hogwash. We're fine with that. We're happy with that. But please, if you see something, say something.
As we kind of close on our show today, a lot of opportunities for you and your style of leadership. But your style of leadership has been around for 30 years. It's not really going to change a lot.
I hope not. The biggest thing is you got to treat people like you want to be treated. And that's what I've always felt like. And that's one thing Fleming Williams taught me. Treat people like you want to be treated and you'll go far. If
there's a reason to contact, I'm going to throw a curveball here at you. Is there a phone number?
Yes, you can contact the sheriff's office at 615-790-5550. That is our dispatcher. Now, if you want to talk to me personally, 615-790-5604 gets you to my office.
Dusty Rhoades, been around a long time, was hired by the late Fleming Williams, has worked under several different administrations, got an opportunity now, doing a great job, but got an opportunity to develop the law enforcement community within the sheriff's department, working with the state, the city, and you're looking at the man that makes it comfortable for all of us in which to live and work, worship, play, and just raise our families. Thanks for what you do.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I'm Rogers Anderson. We'll see you around the county at the next interview. Have a good day.